Welcome back to AI Explained, where we like to really dig deep into how artificial intelligence is changing things up
Yeah, all kinds of things.
all over the place.
We're going to be taking a look at AI and fighting wildfires,
Oh, very cool.
which is something that I think a lot of people are concerned about these days, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
So we found this really interesting article
hmm
that suggests that AI could become as reliable for predicting wildfires as, the weather forecast.
That would be incredible.
Yeah. So we're going to break down exactly how that might actually work.
Okay.
What the claims are, how realistic they are, all that good stuff.
Right.
So the article starts off by introducing us to Chief Philip Selig,
Okay.
who's a veteran firefighter in California.
Right.
And he's really been there on the front lines of this whole AI revolution.
So he's seen both sides then,
Yeah, exactly.
the before and after.
He's kind of seen how things used to be done
Mhm.
and how they're evolving now. Yeah, that's super valuable perspective.
Definitely. And he talks about how before AI came along, wildfire prediction was sort of like
I can imagine.
putting together a puzzle,
Mm-hmm.
but blindfolded.
Oh, wow.
Like analysts would have to rely on things like, red zone maps.
Right, the ones that show like the areas with the high risk.
Exactly. And those maps, were basically created by hand using all this data about the types of fuel,
Okay.
the topography, and even past fires.
So that must have taken forever
Oh, yeah. It was a really slow process, like hours or even days.
to just assess one area.
Yeah, just to figure out the risk for one specific area.
Wow, and I bet by the time they even had a prediction, things had already changed out there.
Totally. And the article uses this example of the Los Padres National Forest Fire.
Oh, right. I remember hearing about that one.
Yeah, and Chief Seasley was saying that back then, analyzing just a single 911 call about a potential fire would take hours.
Seriously?
Yeah, they would have to gather all this data, try to figure out the weather, plan routes for the firefighters.
Oh, man. That sounds like a logistical nightmare.
Oh, it definitely was.
Yeah.
Especially when every second counts, right?
Yeah.
But then AI swoops in to save the day.
Yeah, exactly. AI enters the picture.
That's got to be a game changer.
Oh, absolutely. And they talk about this program developed by a company called Silva
Okay.
that can analyze those same 911 calls.
Like the ones that used to take hours?
Yep. And it can spit out a prediction in just 18 to 20 seconds.
No way.
Yeah, so we're talking about going from hours to seconds.
Wow, so firefighters can get info almost instantly now.
Exactly. So they can make much faster decisions.
That got to be so much safer, too.
For sure. And what's really interesting is that the article mentions that during that Los Padres fire,
Yeah.
Chief Selig actually used this program something like 12 to 14 times in a single morning.
In one morning.
Yeah. So you can imagine how user-friendly it must be if he's using it that much in the middle of a huge wildfire.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right. So it's clearly accessible even in those really high-pressure situations. So how does it work?
Well, the article says it basically breaks down wildfire prediction into three main factors.
Okay.
Fuel, weather, and ignition.
Makes sense. Those are kind of like the key ingredients for a wildfire, right?
Right. And let's start with fuel. So
Yeah.
what we're really talking about is vegetation.
Oh, okay. So like trees and shrubs and all that.
Exactly. All the stuff that can burn.
Yeah, okay.
And the article explains how Silva uses this technology called LiDAR,
LiDAR.
which is like a really high-resolution laser sensor to create these 3D maps of all that vegetation.
3D maps. Isn't LiDAR what they use in self-driving cars?
Yeah, exactly. It's becoming super common in all sorts of fields because it can provide such incredibly accurate information.
So it's like a really detailed picture of the world.
Pretty much. And in this case, it means that they can actually see things like individual leaves.
Wow, that's amazing.
Right. And that's where AI comes in.
Okay.
AI is what helps them analyze all this data from LiDAR.
I can imagine it's a ton of data.
Oh, yeah, it's massive. And it can pinpoint those areas with really dense, dry vegetation, which is basically the perfect fuel for a fire.
Oh, that makes sense. And what about the areas where they haven't used LiDAR yet?
Well, that's the cool part. AI can actually extend those maps.
So it can fill in the gaps.
Yeah, even for areas that are really remote.
So it can create a fuel map even for places that are really hard to get to.
Exactly.
That's really impressive.
And of course, fuel is just one part of the equation.
Right.
We also have to think about the weather.
Oh, yeah. Of course, the wind and all that stuff.
Yeah, things like wind speed, direction, temperature, humidity, all
Yeah,
that.
all affects how a fire spreads.
Definitely.
So this AI program must be factoring in weather, too.
Oh, absolutely. It's pulling in data from weather stations, satellites, all kinds of sources.
And then it uses that to figure out how dry the vegetation is.
Yeah, every single day.
Because obviously if it's drier, it's going to burn easier.
Right, exactly. So we've got this AI system that's mapping out the fuel, tracking the weather,
Mm.
and it's constantly updating its assessment of the risk.
We're still missing one ingredient.
That's right.
Ignition.
Exactly.
And that's where it gets a little tricky, right?
Yeah.
Like, we can map all the fuel and monitor the weather, but knowing exactly when and where a fire is going to start,
It's a tough one.
yeah, that's a whole other challenge.
It's almost like trying to predict lightning strikes.
Oh, yeah. Good point.
Super unpredictable.
Totally.
But the article actually suggests that AI might be able to handle it.
Really?
Yeah.
How so?
Well, the idea is that even seemingly random events like lightning
Uh-huh.
might actually have some hidden patterns that AI can pick up on.
Oh, interesting. So it's like AI is digging through tons of weather data,
Yep.
looking for those little clues
Exactly.
that could help predict lightning strikes.
And it's not just historical data either.
No.
AI can also factor in real-time weather patterns.
Oh, cool. Like what kind of patterns?
Things like atmospheric pressure and wind shear.
Okay, so it's using all of that to make its predictions even more accurate.
Right, and the article even highlights this project by NOAA,
NOAA.
the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration.
Oh, right. Okay.
And they're using AI to predict lightning strikes across the entire U.S.
The whole country.
Yeah,
Wow.
every hour.
That's wild.
And get this, they're now focusing specifically on predicting dry lightning.
Dry lightning.
Yeah, so that's lightning that happens without much rainfall.
Oh, wow.
And that's obviously the type that's most likely to start wildfires.
Right, because it hits dry vegetation.
Exactly. So if you combine lightning prediction with all that fuel and weather data,
Mm.
AI could potentially pinpoint those areas that are at the absolute highest risk of ignition.
From dry lightning.
Yep.
That's pretty incredible.
And it's not just lightning either.
No.
Researchers are also looking at how AI could be used to predict other causes of ignition,
Like what?
like human-caused fires.
Oh, yeah. Those are a huge problem.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So AI could maybe help prevent those too.
That's the idea. It could analyze things like where power lines are, population density, even traffic patterns.
To see where people are most likely to accidentally start a fire.
Exactly. It's all about layering different types of data to create that really accurate risk assessment.
That's pretty amazing.
And here's where it gets even more interesting.
More interesting.
Yeah, the article goes beyond predicting individual fires
Okay.
and starts talking about predicting wildfires on a global scale.
Global.
Like the whole planet
That sounds super ambitious.
is.
How would they even predict wildfires for the whole world?
Well, it's definitely a huge undertaking, but the European Center for Medium-Range Weather Forecasts, or ECMWF,
ECMWS?
yeah, they're the ones tackling this challenge.
How are they doing it?
Well, instead of using those detailed vegetation maps, which can be pretty inconsistent depending on the region,
Right.
they're actually focusing on CO2 levels.
CO2 levels.
Yeah, in the atmosphere.
Okay, but how does that relate to wildfire prediction?
Well, higher CO2 levels usually mean there's more vegetation growth,
Oh,
which means more potential fuel.
So they can use CO2 levels to figure out how much fuel there is.
Exactly. By tracking those levels with satellites, they can get a sense of fuel availability on a global scale.
It's like using CO2 as a proxy for a global fuel map.
Yep. Pretty clever.
Huh, that's really smart.
And the article even says that this program actually predicted the 2024 Canadian wildfires 10 days in advance.
Whoa, that's impressive.
Yeah. Especially considering how big and complex those fires were.
Absolutely, but predicting them is just one part of the equation, right?
Totally.
What really matters is how we use those predictions to actually fight the fires.
Yeah, it's one thing to know a fire is likely to start,
Right.
but it's another thing entirely to use that information to protect people and property.
In the environment.
Yeah, for sure.
So how does AI help with that?
Well, that's where its impact goes beyond just prediction.
Okay.
It's also about improving firefighting strategies.
Oh, so like helping firefighters figure out the best way to attack a fire once it's already going.
Exactly. AI algorithms can analyze things like the terrain, weather patterns, even how the fire itself is behaving
Wow.
to suggest the most effective approaches.
So AI could help figure out where to put fire breaks.
Yep.
Where to position resources,
Ugh.
even the best way to use water and fire retardant.
Exactly. It's like
Yeah.
having a virtual advisor right there in the fire truck,
That's amazing.
giving them real-time insights to help them make the best decisions.
Especially since they're often working in really dangerous and chaotic situations.
Yeah, and as AI continues to improve, these tools are only going to get more powerful.
It's exciting to think about what might be possible.
It really is. You could have AI-powered drones that can spot fires
Wow.
Robotic firefighters that can go into those really dangerous areas.
And maybe even AI that can predict exactly how a fire will spread.
Yeah, it sounds like science fiction,
I know.
but it's actually not that far off.
AI is already making a huge difference in firefighting.
Yeah, this deep dive has been really eye-opening.
Well, it really has.
The potential for AI in this field is incredible.
But we have to be careful too, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. With any new technology, we have to make sure we're using it responsibly.
And ethically.
Exactly. And remember, AI is there to help firefighters, not to replace them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about working together.
Yeah.
AI researchers and experienced firefighters to make sure that the technology is actually useful.
And actually help solve those real-world problems.
Right. It can't just be cool tech.
It has to actually work.
It has to work in the field.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay? And that means training and education, too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We need firefighters who are comfortable using AI.
Right, who understand how to use it.
Who know what it can and can't do.
Exactly. It's not about replacing human expertise.
Right.
It's about adding to it.
Giving them these tools
Right.
to make their jobs safer and more effective.
Absolutely, and the potential benefits go beyond just firefighting, too.
Really?
Yeah, AI can also be a big help with wildfire prevention.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it can analyze all that data to find those areas that are most at risk of wildfires.
Okay.
And then we can focus our prevention efforts there.
So things like managing vegetation or doing outreach programs in those communities?
Exactly. It's about being proactive.
So instead of just reacting to fires once they've already started,
Right.
we can try to prevent them in the first place.
Exactly.
Wow. This deep dive has really been amazing.
Yeah, it's been fascinating.
AI's potential in this field is just incredible.
It really is, and it's an exciting time to be working in this area.
Yeah, for sure.
All these advancements in AI combined with, the urgent need to address the wildfire crisis.
Yeah.
It feels like we have a real chance to make a difference.
It feels like we're on the verge of a major change
Totally. A paradigm shift.
in how we predict, prevent, and respond to wildfires.
And that shift could potentially save lives, protect property, preserve ecosystems.
And ultimately create a more sustainable future.
Absolutely.
Well, listeners, we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
We've seen how AI can predict wildfires,
Analyze fuel,
track weather,
predict ignition sources.
all with incredible accuracy.
And we've talked about how this technology is being used to improve firefighting and to prevent fires in the first place.
It's been an incredible journey,
It really has.
and we hope you found it as fascinating as we did.
Absolutely. And we always encourage you to keep learning about AI.
Yeah, there's so much to explore.
It's a field full of possibilities.
Maybe some of you listening will be the ones to develop the next big AI breakthrough.
That helps us protect our planet.
That's a great point. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into AI and wildfires.
Thanks for listening.
Be sure to subscribe to AI Explained for more deep dives into how AI is shaping the world.
We'll have more exciting topics coming up.
And as we wrap up, here's a final thought for you.
Okay.
What other fields could benefit from AI's predictive power?
That's a great question.
Think about it until next time. Stay curious.